good enough?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I'm no stranger to adversity. As nervous as I still get about racing, running has been my medicine, and towing the starting line is something I'll never get tired of. My relationship with racing has changed so much since I first started. I still love running fast, but I know it's not life or death. We all have a vision for how our life is going to go, but life is also full of uncertainty.
I was hoping it'd be warmer here. I know that doesn't sound like, it's just like, the cold air is hard for my abdomen because there's so many muscles that are like not normal yet.
I get you, yeah.
So when it gets, I just like, there's a chill, I don't know.
It's a double barrel.
Yeah, it's nice here, it's California.
Yeah.
I just, hi! Obviously I was hoping for more, but
Cool.
I'm happy just to get one
Cool.
under my belt. I'll be back. No, I'm fine.
Sorry.
I can put on
Last July, I competed in the US Olympic trials. A few weeks later, I had a surgery to remove half of my liver along with a tumor. And 3 months after that, I started running again. Over the winter, I began training hard to reestablish myself as one of the top American runners, with the goal of competing at the 2017 World Championships. In March, I had my first post-operation PET scan and was hoping for no cancer, but the scan showed tumors in my liver. I miss my puppy. We treat her like a child. We got her like her own personal babysitter, sits at our condo and takes her everywhere with her. It's great. She has a great life. Oh, perfect. Thank you, sir. Enjoy it. It's all about perspective. For me, running is important and it's my job and it's my passion. And just because I'm going through something hard doesn't mean I'm just going to give that up immediately. It might be easier for me to just sit on the couch and say I don't want to run anymore. It might not go well, but I think it's worth doing even if it's not perfect. And I think that sometimes we're too quick to give up on the things that we love and the things that make us feel alive when something is, going wrong in our lives, but I just really feel strongly that we have to hold on to them.
Originally, the schedule for the year was more spread out, and then when we got the diagnosis, we weren't sure exactly when the treatment was going to start and what it would be. So now the time schedule is moved up, and so it's changed the workouts a little bit. We have to add some intensity a little earlier than we wanted. But she wants to race as many quality races as she can before the treatment begins. And then once the treatment does begin, we'll just roll with it and see if that can continue, and she can get a qualifier for U.S. Nationals. And if she does that and goes to Nationals and is able to compete there, that'll be a good season. And if it goes beyond that, it'll be a great season.
Good job. Sorry. Oh,
Good job.
that's a good one.
That's real good. Very good.
Yeah.
Week by week, putting it together.
Definitely. I definitely went to
That's good.
a place that was harder than my race the other day.
That's good.
Physically.
Essentially, we're going to Sloan Kettering just to get the expert opinion. There's a doctor out there named Dr. Ho, Alan Ho. He's kind of the world expert in adenoid cystic carcinoma. If anyone's going to cure this cancer, it's going to be him. He's running clinical trials. It's a meeting to say, what do we do next?
All right, sweetie. So you're going to New York tomorrow?
I am, yeah. I have
Specialist?
Yep.
When we found out that she had cancer the first time, we were in Arizona State, and you know, of course, the whole team was there, and they were just devastated, and she was. But she got up the next day and went and ran a PR in the 1500, and that's just who she is. I mean, it's just like, yeah, okay, well, there's nothing I can do about it now, so let's go and compete tomorrow. And so it was, you know, she's always had that attitude. She's a tough hombre.
You know, I sent out an email to the girls this fourth time around, you know, because it's obviously, you know, this one I think has honestly hit a lot of us the hardest because it was just such a quick turnaround. And I think, you know, the first one, there was this gap, and then there was the thyroid, and then there was this long gap, and you're like, okay, like, everything's good, and she's racing fast, and she's trying to make the Olympics, and all this stuff, and then the liver happened, and you're like, oh, ugh. But then they took it out, and you're like, okay, we're good. And then, you know, 4 or 5 months later, this is the closest. You know, this is where it's been rapid fire. And I think this is the one for a lot of us from the outside that have just been more of a punch to the gut.
I'm 30 years old, and I imagined possibly competing for another Olympic team. And the way I've seen it is like I either want to be a competitive runner or I want to start a family. And it sucks because potentially I could do neither of those things. And so that's really hard because I don't know what comes next then.
Hi, everybody. I am Gabe. Thank you for watching that with me. That's just a little snippet of a documentary that's on YouTube. If you want to watch the rest of it, you can find it on Brooks Running's YouTube channel. It's called Gabe. This is a little hard for me to watch because this basically captured my 2017 track season where I knew that I was going to have upcoming treatment for a metastatic rare cancer. My first cancer diagnosis was in 2009 when I was a senior at the University of Minnesota, and I just had a tiny tumor underneath my left ear, and they took it out. I had radiation therapy, and basically I was a fifth-year senior, hoping to have my last final season, wanted it to be my best one, but it got interrupted. I raced one more time the next day. It set a PR, but I knew my season was over. I had to have surgery and radiation, but I got a 6th year from the NCAA, which ended up changing basically my life. I was already in grad school, so I really wanted that next year to get back on the track and have that final track season. I have always wanted to leave the sport of running on my own terms and not on cancer's terms. So it was super important for me way back in 2009. And 2010 was a dream season. I ran so much faster than I ever had in my life, and I got to really live out my dreams on the track as being a new cancer survivor and trying to reestablish what my life was going to be like as a young adult with a rare cancer and a serious cancer that at that moment wasn't life-threatening, but definitely could become life-threatening in the future. So that was a tough road for me, but I am so fortunate that my cancer story has been largely intertwined with my running story. I credit running for helping me get through a long and undulating journey with, I've had 4 cancer diagnoses now, just 2 different primaries. I did have thyroid cancer, but I don't consider that as much of a big deal at this point in my life. But yeah, so this was 2017. This was supposed to be my comeback. I had that Cinderella story comeback from 2009 to 2010, and this was a tough one for me because I was reaching sort of the pinnacle of my running and racing career, and
it was very tough to have my Olympic bid in 2016 sort of coincide with my recurrence. But I really wanted this track season to happen, and it was tough. I decided to put off my treatment by like a few weeks, just because I wanted to have a couple races because I didn't know when I would be back. What ended up happening basically after this is I did a few races. They didn't go great. I wouldn't say that I raced my full potential. Looking back, I think I was really in a mental space of trying to get used to the idea that I might be dealing with this long term now, and that was very difficult, but I do credit running for helping me set goals that are not related to the cancer, and also just helping me to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Having a cancer diagnosis, having cancer that doesn't go away is uncomfortable, but I have learned how to handle that because I'm a runner, and that's essentially what we do as runners, competitive runners, recreational runners, everybody who's out there, no matter what your goal is. I think with running, we're all trying to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's essentially how I've gotten through this diagnosis. I competed through the US Championships, I started chemo, and basically ended my season. Chemo didn't work for me. I failed chemo, so I moved on to a clinical trial for immunotherapy last year, and that was not a miracle cure for me. It helped me out a little bit. I had another liver-directed radiation treatment this past December, and I was trying to train during all of this, and one thing that I've noticed since my cancer has become metastatic and in a place where I'm getting 3-month scans is trying to plan out my training in 3-month windows has been a huge challenge, and I think I was rushing things. I really wanted to do a little bit of an indoor track season, so I was rushing from treatments to interviews and all different things. It's been a tough balance for me, and I ended up injured this last winter. But in that time away from running with my injury, I was able to do something that I've wanted to do for a long time, which is start a foundation dedicated to 2 things that are very important to me personally and part of my story. One is rare cancer research. There are lots of rare cancers, and very few of them have FDA-approved treatments. Mine is one of them, and so I'm doing events and trying to do some fundraising on that side, and I'm also hoping to empower cancer survivors through physical activity and sharing my journey of how it has not only helped me mentally and emotionally and spiritually on this journey, but really has helped me as a patient to get through some of those symptoms and side effects and just continue to have a relationship with my body that's not completely negative, because I think as cancer survivors, there is a sense that your body has betrayed you and maybe we should just give up. But I think that when you have cancer, I would say it's not time to give up. This is a time to invest in your body and invest in your future. And even if you haven't walked a step in months, like this is time to start having that positive relationship with your body and giving yourself a good chance for long-term survivorship, and also just a high quality of life, which is what we're all looking for. So I'm excited to be here today. I don't want to talk too much because we have a lot planned for this, but thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to your questions about exercise oncology.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gabe. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Catherine Schmitz. I'm the incoming president of the American College of Sports Medicine. There is a bet that I lost. That's why I'm wearing a tiara. Just so that you know. Anyway, so I also want to make sure that you all get it, that, Gabe is not just kind of, oh yeah, she runs sometimes, or that she's, she was sponsored by Brooks as a professional runner. She was the 4th place finisher in the 2012 USA Olympic trials, and a USA Championship title winner in the indoor 3,000 meters in 2014. So when she talks about that period of time, that her career was taking a dramatic turn, it was after her first cancer diagnosis, after she had been dealing with and getting treated for cancer for some time. So the organization of this session is that you've seen a bit of her video. You can go look at the rest of it. I've seen the whole thing. You should watch it. It's very cool. And then, we wanted Gabe to have a few minutes to speak with us. But we have yet another absolutely remarkable woman with us today. Dr. Susan Helmrich is actually not only a DES daughter, not only a multiple-time cancer survivor and a master's athlete, who competes nationally. But she also has a PhD. Her PhD advisor was Ralph Paffenbarger. Okay, so she's also has that background. Oh, and by the way, if that's not enough, she's a certified well coach. So she actually works with people to help them to shape their health behaviors as well. And her story is equally compelling, and many more decades, which of course is inspirational to Gabe, because she would like very much to have the long cancer journey that Susan has. So please help me in welcoming Dr. Susan Helmrich.
Okay. Good afternoon or morning or whatever it is. And a very special hello to Dr. Katie Schmitz for inviting me here today, and congratulations to her on her new role as president of the ACSM. So I'm Susan Helmrich. I am 62 years old. I am a 3-time cancer survivor. The first time I had cancer, I was 21. The second time, I was 42. The third time, I was 53. I am truly lucky, grateful, and thankful to be standing here today and sharing the stage with such an amazing, young, brave woman like Gabe. I am in awe of her story. So I'm going to show you a 6-minute video about my life. And I often tell people this video sums up my life in just 6 short minutes. And that's it, which is so cool that you can just, that's it. But I want to give you a summary of what you're about to see. And this video is about 7 years old, so some of the facts are a little off or, outdated, but you'll get the general picture. I was born in 1955 when many pregnant women were given a drug called diethylstilbestrol, or DES. Little did I know that when I was a developing fetus and my cells were dividing, clearly some bad things were happening to my DNA. Fast forward from in utero to age 21, I had been a Title IX athletic scholarship winner for swimming at Syracuse University, the first one. They gave 5 women athletic scholarships back then in the dark ages. There was no NCAA, there wasn't nothing really happening. Feeling quite on top of the world as I graduated, hoping to go to medical school, when, surprise, I was diagnosed with a rare form of vaginal cancer. Now, I need to tell you that in 1977, no one said the word cancer. They used all other kinds of words to describe it, but not cancer. And no one said vagina. So here I am, 41 years later, saying both cancer and vagina to a room full of, 200 people. It's so cool. So I bet most of you have never heard those 2 words in the same sentence before either. So now you have. But when I first entered Sloan Kettering Memorial Cancer Center in August of 1977, I brought my tennis racket and my sneakers. I don't think they were even called running shoes back then, but I was unpacking my little bag and I was putting my tennis racket and my sneakers in the little locker, and the nurses and my parents were like looking at me like, what is she doing? Well, no one wanted to tell me I was crazy, but I had heard there were tennis courts on the top of New York Hospital, which was across the street from Sloan Kettering, and I was sure that during my recuperation I would be able to hit a few balls with my dad and certainly go for walks around the block in stifling hot New York City in August, so I got that wrong. After a 10.5-hour surgery, that was not happening. I had never been in the hospital before, I had never had surgery, and I had definitely no idea what was about to happen to me. Needless to say, I never used the tennis racket or the sneakers. I lost all of my reproductive organs and a few other non-essential organs during that surgery. Fast forward to cancer number 2. This time it was my lung. My lung! When I got that diagnosis, I was still a bit groggy from the conscious sedation for the bronchoscopy when they found it, and I heard the surgeon, as he whisked in my room, announce that he would simply take out my lung. Did he say he was going to take out my lung? I said to my husband, who was in the procedure. I said, what? I need my lung for swimming. It's important. As it turned out, the surgeon was a swimmer at my club, and he knew about me. And he knew I was a serious swimmer, and he did the surgery in such a way to preserve as much lung function as he could. The tumor was sitting on the main stem bronchus, and he told my husband that in a normal person or a non-swimmer, he would have just taken out the whole lung. But I was lucky, and I only lost the superior lobe of my left lung. He used a lot of creativity and improvisation in that surgery. Recovery from that surgery was tough. Breathing was kind of important in swimming. But slowly, I got back into a place that was good, and I was good enough. I powered on, and I was mom to my 2 young kids, and I was doing the best I could do. And then, just 10 years later, at the age of 53, I got my 3rd cancer diagnosis. This time, it was in my pancreas. So after the first 2, one would think I could handle just about anything, but this time, all I knew was a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer. It was like a death sentence. And I was really scared. But the good news was that I had a really, really good cancer in a really, really bad place. My tumor was neuroendocrine cancer. It was at the head of the pancreas. It was the very same diagnosis that Steve Jobs had. I was a very good candidate for a Whipple. Google Whipple, not now, but after. And essentially, according to one source on the internet, which is kind of accurate, it says, the Whipple removes and reconstructs a large part of the gastrointestinal tract and is a difficult and complex operation. Well, for those physicians in the room, that's what it is, but that is an understatement. I am telling you, it is very difficult to be the person that's getting the Whipple. The recovery from this one was the most difficult. I spent 23 days in Stanford Hospital. I was fed TPN through a tube in my neck. I thought I was going to die, not from the cancer, but from the surgery. I threw up several times every day, but I walked miles and miles and miles around that floor, which had become my new home. My IV pole had become my new best friend. I thought I was never going to get out of that hospital. I thought I would never swim again. And I was pretty sure I was never going to eat again. That was almost 9 years ago. So this year, knock on wood, I will turn 63, an age I never thought I would see. I will see my son graduate from medical school and my daughter in 2 years. So they did what I wanted to do. And I know this is a weird thing to say coming from someone who has had 3 primary cancers, 8 major surgeries, and more hospitalizations that I can count, but I truly feel lucky and grateful. So there you have it, my 62 years in a nutshell. And I'm happy to tell you that is not all I've done in my life was have cancer, but, and you will see in the video, I have done a few other things, one of which was to present my PhD dissertation at this very conference in Dallas, Texas in 1992, as one of Dr. Ralph Paffenbarger's doctoral students. The paper I wrote with him was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, and maybe among this crowd could be my greatest claim to fame. I am proud and honored to have worked with him, and more importantly, to have learned about exercise epidemiology and the importance of exercise from him. Exercise really is medicine. And for cancer patients, I believe it is even more critical for survival, for coping, and for helping get through the dark times. On that note, I will invite you to sit back and watch my 6-minute video, and we'll be happy to answer questions after. Thank you.
The best master swimmers in the world have gathered in Mesa, Arizona for the U.S. National Championships, and 55-year-old Dr. Susan Helmrich is moments away from a major goal. Susan has plenty of determination, but doesn't have
My entire reproductive system, one lung, my gallbladder, my duodenum, half of my pancreas, and everything from my liver was rerouted. So literally, I have many, many missing body parts, and here I am.
Susan has battled back and beaten 3 very serious cancers to get here.
Okay, your mark.
battles that began decades ago. Susan grew up in competitive swimming. In the late 70s, she was captain of the Syracuse University team. After graduating, Susan was diagnosed with a rare vaginal cancer, a hallmark of DES exposure in the womb. DES was the first synthetic form of estrogen and thought to prevent miscarriages. It was approved by the FDA without controlled studies and beginning in the late 40s prescribed to 10 million women worldwide, including Susan's mother. By the mid-50s, research revealed that DES didn't work and was potentially toxic and carcinogenic. But it was a big moneymaker for over 275 U.S. drug companies, and it wasn't until 1971 that it was removed from the market. But it was too late for 2 million DES daughters who were beginning to experience its devastating legacy. In a 10.5-hour operation, doctors removed Susan's vagina, uterus, and lymph nodes, reconstructing her vagina with her colon, a process requiring 2 more major surgeries over the next 3 years. As soon as possible, Susan was back in the pool.
Swimming and training and goal setting and surviving really is what it's all about. And without swimming, I don't think I would have survived. I really don't.
Cancer-free for 2 decades, Susan earned her master's from Harvard and her PhD in epidemiology from Cal Berkeley. She became an advocate for other DES daughters, got married, raised a family, and continued to swim. But in 1999, she was diagnosed with lung cancer, even though she never smoked a single cigarette. Doctors removed nearly her entire left lung, and once again, she got back into the pool in an effort to recapture her life. 10 years later, in 2009, Susan was diagnosed with a rare form of pancreatic cancer. This photo was taken the morning of her surgery, a final swim with her daughter and husband. Later that day, doctors removed part of her bowel, part of her stomach, her gallbladder, half her pancreas, her bile duct, lymph nodes, and rewired her digestive tract.
You can't imagine that your body can function without all these body parts. You know, a duodenum. I mean, before it was taken out, I was like, I thought you needed a duodenum. Why do you have it? You don't need it. A gallbladder. I have half of my pancreas. You know, it's like you can live without all these organs. So it's kind of astonishing.
Susan spent 23 days in the hospital, unable to eat anything. Her post-surgery routine included sessions with ancient Tibetan singing bowls, acupuncture, massage, foot reflexology, and Jin-Shin Jutsu treatments to balance energy flow. And she had a single goal in mind.
My goal when I was in the hospital was to swim in the next nationals that I could be ready for.
A few weeks after surgery, Susan was back in the pool, and it didn't go
And I swam 2 laps. And I thought, I'll never swim again. I swam 2 laps and burst into tears. And my husband was with me, and he reminded me that it was worse when I had my lung removed.
And so she kept swimming, kept dreaming of this day, her return to the national championships.
I remember this surgery saying, I can't wait to wake up each morning because I feel better every day. And that's kind of like what swimming taught me. You know, if you keep at it, you get better every day.
Susan is back and better than ever, finishing second in the national championships in the grueling 1650 and third in the 500. She's reinvented herself as one of the nation's top health and wellness coaches and is a tireless advocate, fundraiser, and event director for Swim Across America.
It's an amazing organization because what it does is it combines swimming events with raising money for cancer research.
While Susan acknowledges the importance of a positive attitude, she bristles at the suggestion that a positive attitude alone can beat cancer.
There is a lot of luck involved with cancer. I mean, I could have easily been one of the ones that didn't make it. And, you know, I have a lot of friends and wonderful, positive people who have not made it. Beyond the cells and the tumors that you just can't do anything about, I think that having a positive attitude really helps. And I have never, not one day, I don't think, been depressed.
You know, I'm just not a depressed person. I've been sad and I've been mad and I've been pissed that I've had to deal with this so many times.
Susan has amazed even herself, overcoming one of the darkest chapters in U.S. drug history. She's done it with the support of her family and friends and her not-so-secret weapon, the one thing she credits above all else for her amazing comebacks, swimming.
What's the moral of your story? What do you say to people out there?
Don't stop swimming. I mean, it has saved my life literally 3 times.
Ladies and gentlemen, maybe. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Gabe and Susan.
He wanted me there.
So I'm taking the advantage here of getting to sit up here to ask the first few questions, but we certainly do want to hear from other folks with their questions as well. So, so the first question I want to ask the two of you is, you know, we know that oncologists don't get any training in exercise science and in how to deal with exercise within their patients. And I am betting that the two of you have had quite the range of responses from your care team. And I'm curious to know if you have a memorable story to share with us about a doctor, you know, either thinking you're amazing or quite the opposite, thinking exercise was going to kill you.
Well, because I've had this for 40 years, I have a lot of stories. Yeah. But the most recent one I can tell you was that about 2 years ago, I had these fevers of unknown origin, like 104, 105, really, really super high fevers. And the doctors were very concerned that there was some kind of blockage in part of the Whipple surgery and that I would have to go in and have this fixed. But one of the fevers happened the week before my big event where I swim in the San Francisco Bay, jump off a boat under the Golden Gate Bridge and swim in and raise money. And so it happened 3 days before I was supposed to do that. And so I was at Stanford and my doctor was doing all these scans and they couldn't figure it out. But I said, can I go swimming in the bay on Saturday? And he said, there's no way I can stop you. And I did. I swam it, and anyway, I did it. Now I knew as a patient that if he sat me down and said, "There's absolutely no way you should do that," I wouldn't have. But luckily, he said to me, "There's no way I can stop you." So that was a great story.
He knows you well.
He knew me well.
That was great.
Gabe?
I don't know if I have anything too exciting. I think all of the doctors I worked with pretty much knew that I was a runner and that would be on my schedule to get back at it. But I think when I was first diagnosed, that was probably the hardest of like navigating, getting back into running. They were very concerned about how I would deal with radiation to my neck, just with eating and gaining, like staying at a healthy weight and all those things. So they really discouraged me from doing much that summer. But I got so out of shape that I think it was a little bit overboard. And I did start running eventually. During my treatment, I would run to the radiation treatment center and I'd run home. It'd be like 2 miles and they thought I was crazy, but I was like, really, this is nothing. And this is the least I can do. I don't want to have to park here anyway, so no big deal. So yeah, but fortunately I do feel like the stigma around exercising for cancer patients is slightly starting to change. Yeah. Maybe it seems like it's almost on a similar, totally different, but similar to exercising during pregnancy. I think exercising while you have cancer at all different phases, I think is a more, it's a conversation that I have more often with my oncologist. And he will ask me, are you running? How's running going? So that's new for me, but that's in the last year mainly. So it's good to see the changes for sure.
So I think, there are people here who train cancer patients and survivors. And one of the things that, that their clients ask a lot is, how much is too much? So how do you know when you're pushing too far? How do you two know, I need to stop now?
Do you want to start or you want me to start? I think that is tough because I think it's such an individual thing where you're coming in, your baseline fitness, what you're used to as a patient is obviously going to change what you can handle during your treatment and also the type of treatment you're getting. I have been able to run through a lot of different things, but I was only on chemo for 4 weeks, so I don't have a ton of experience speaking on how that feels after multiple rounds of chemo. So I think that it's hard because it's so individual, but for me, fatigue is such a hard symptom to talk about because I get tired from running, sometimes I'm tired from treatment, sometimes I'm just tired of this as a person, so fatigue is hard. So if there's fatigue that doesn't go away after a few nights of good rest, then I know that I need to personally pull back a little bit, but I think it's a tough one because everybody is a little bit different with what they can handle. I don't know.
I agree. And I also think, there isn't one cancer and there's not one treatment. And so even though I had 3 different, my main form of treatment was surgery. Surgery for me was pretty hard to come back from, but it was a very gradual build up. After my lung, I couldn't even walk from here to the end of the room. I was gasping for breath, but your body can adapt. So I think it is a very individual, number one, your baseline, and I just want to add, I don't know if I said it, I wanted to say it, that the worst thing a doctor can say to a patient is don't overdo it. Because many of my doctors would say, don't overdo it. Now, don't overdoing it to me is like, not overdoing it. So instead of swimming an hour, I'd swim, or instead of swimming 2 hours, an hour. That's pretty good, right? What does overdoing it mean? And to a couch potato, it's like, oh, great. I don't have to get off the couch and moving the remote. So I feel like doctors really need to understand their patient's baseline, where they are when they come in with their diagnosis, where are they starting from, and where do they want to get to? Gabe wants to go to the Olympics. I'd like to go to, it's over for me, but, I want to be the best I can be. So I think that's really important for the surgeon, the oncologist, the radiation doctors, whatever, to get to know where they are at their baseline and where they want to go.
Fantastic, thank you. So you've led me right into my next question, which is, what are your plans for competition coming up? Do you have plans for competition?
Do you want to start? You can start this time. No.
Okay.
I'm a has-been for sure. So in my little age group, I'm okay, and so I kind of compete at that level, 60 to 64 years old, and I can't wait to turn 65, and then I can move I keep saying when I'm 70, man, I'm gonna rock it. But I do open water events, and I'll swim in. We have lots of meets in California all the time, so I just continue training. And people will say, "Are you training for something special?" I say, "Yep, for life. I'm training to live." So that's where I am on my competition scale.
Very cool. I was hoping to do some outdoor track this season. As I mentioned, I had a little bit of an injury this winter. I am almost getting to being a year of basically being on treatment for a full year, different treatments, but it's been a long year. The toughest thing for me has been the lack of consistency in my training, between sometimes having to take time off around a procedure and my injury obviously didn't help. I attribute that to not being able to navigate. There's 2 competing desires for me as an athlete. One is to fit in as much as I possibly can within a window where I think I'm going to have a good scan or be on a treatment that I can run on. And the other is, as a professional runner or as an athlete, it's you need a training block that's long enough to gain that fitness. So I have had a hard time kind of figuring that out, but I'm viewing it as a learning process. I am training again. I'm hoping to stay on immunotherapy for the foreseeable future because I think I can run fast on it. We'll find out. But I'm hoping to race later this summer. But my big goal, I'm looking at this now that I'm trying to learn from really rushing things a little too much. I'm looking at this as a 2-year build up to 2020. ultimately, like I mentioned earlier, I would love to leave the sport of track and field on my own terms and not because of a cancer interruption. And I don't know what that will look like for me performance-wise. I don't rule anything out. I could be fast, super slow, who knows? But I'm really looking at the 2020 Olympic trials as where I would like to get to. My cancer will have to cooperate a bit for that to happen, but that's still my goal.
Okay, fantastic. We're all pulling for you for that
Thank
to
you.
happen. So I actually do want to ask you if you think that your injury had anything to do with, was it potentially caused by overdoing something having to do with, you do have a bit of a, well, I have to slow down now because of treatment and then I can speed up.
Yeah.
Did that play into it?
I think so. I think that every injury, the analysis is, it's never one thing,
No.
right? I think for me, I was traveling a lot last fall because I was on a clinical trial at Memorial Sloan Kettering, so I would fly to New York every 2 weeks, come back. Just was very busy, not doing maybe the little things that help keep me uninjured, but also then when I did feel like I had a window, like instead of taking my usual gradual buildup, I was like, let's get this going. Let's start doing 2 track workouts a week, even though I've been doing 0, because who knows how long this is going to last. Like I got to get back out there. So it's a delicate little balance, but I'm doing my best.
Got it. Okay. I ask because that is actually I think I'm going to see some nods here. I think that's a fairly common thing that exercise professionals working with cancer patients and survivors experience, particularly in people who are athletes, that they want to come back faster than makes sense for what they've been through.
Totally.
So it's a common finding. So it's actually kind of validating to hear you say that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sometimes you need a longer timeline.
Yeah. So my last question, and then we'll open up the floor for other questions. I don't know if there's a mic. They'll need to come up here. Okay, so you'll need to come line up over here and come up to ask the questions. But my last question is to ask you guys to talk about your foundations. I want you to talk about what they're for, how people might be able to get involved, what your activities have been. If you're on Twitter, Gigi runs. She's done a 5K. Awesome to watch this process online. But I want you to talk about Swim Across America and the Brave Like Gabe Foundation. So, Susan?
So I work with an organization called Swim Across America. We are a 30-year-old national nonprofit, and we raise money for cancer research throughout the United States through swimming events. I run the one in San Francisco, which is the best one of the country. But for any of you out there, we're all over the country. We just added one this year in Denver. We have 19 swims this year. They're mostly in beautiful open water venues. There's one in Nantucket. It's fantastic. But mine is under the Golden Gate Bridge into St. Francis Yacht Club in San Francisco. So our money raised locally stays local. So New York raises for Sloan Kettering. Boston raises for Dana-Farber. We raise for UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital. So it's where you raise money, the money stays. And that's what I do most of the time. Try to raise money to find a cure for cancer through swimming.
We like that.
And people can get involved by?
Go to swimacrossamerica.org, find a swim. There are there are open water swims all over the country, and even pool swims if you don't like the open water.
And can people start a swim in their own?
You can start a swim in your own community if you have a cancer center or a cancer program that needs funding. And we can work with you and we vet our beneficiaries. They are mostly very well-regarded physicians and researchers in the country, and they get our funds. But I'd be happy to help anybody start one if they wanted to.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Very cool. I will be getting my notes from Susan for help with my foundation because her Swim Across America is 30 years old. Brave Like Gabe is about 3 to 5 months old. Brand new baby foundation, but I really have wanted to formalize my own personal commitment to helping out these communities. So we've been working on fundraising for rare cancer research, and we recently put on our first event, a 5K, which was in St. Paul. There's also a virtual participation option, which we'll be growing. Basically, we are just getting started and figuring out what our activities will be. We were involved with a marathon in Waco, Texas. Recently, we were the beneficiary from the Silo District Marathon, which was put on by HGTV stars, if you watch that. But they basically have helped Brave Like Gabe get on the map a little bit bigger and a little bit faster than I expected. So we ultimately would like to do more running fundraising events in different cities, but also this summer we'll be working on forming our framework for a race team. So if you want to fundraise for rare cancer research, we also will be rolling out an empowerment through physical activity for cancer survivors side of our programming, but we're not there yet. So if you have any input, find us on bravelikegabe.org. We would love, we're just getting started, so it's very exciting.
And if you guys know who Chip Gaines is, he ran a marathon in a tool belt.
And pants.
And pants.
Yes.
Like, who does that?
Yes, and they donated $250,000 to rare cancer research.
Right.
So it's exciting.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it's your turn. We do not have a microphone out there, so you got to be brave and come on up here. And we could repeat the question too. So if you don't want to come up here, you can just kind of say it, and hopefully I'll hear you and repeat it.
Yeah. Any questions?
Any questions? Yes.
For you guys and the person who's been your biggest champion, your biggest ally, what is the one thing that you have really relied on them for? Personally, have a medical school friend who was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma at age 37 within the last 4 months. So, as a physician, it's a difficult place to be, but I'm wondering, what can I do for him?
So the question is about, for your caregivers, your number one person that you've turned to, what has been most helpful from them? And it's asked specifically because she's in the situation of wanting to be able to be helpful.
It's tough, I guess. I think it's every cancer patient is a little different and needs something different, so it's hard to give a blanket statement. But I think in the place that your friend is in, probably what I've read from people and what is helpful is, not necessarily, it's hard as a patient when people are constantly like, what can I do for you? It's just offering to maybe do an activity for them that they need done in their daily life, taking something off their plate, or just, I think for me, having someone around who wants to do something fun and uplifting, just that I enjoy, and that takes me away from sort of the reality of the cancer treatment, and I think that that's helpful to just get a little bit of a break from that, and outside of that, I think it's hard. It's hard to do the wrong thing. If it comes from good intentions and you just want to help them have a good day and not project into the future, that's always helpful. I don't know though. It is tough.
I think to stay in the moment, like to not kind of talk about trying to not talk the future, because the future's unknown. If someone had told me at 21 that I'd be sitting here at 62, never would I imagine. So stage 4 is different, but as a friend, be there for that person and just do. Don't say, what can I do for you? Or don't say, hang in there and be positive, which everyone said to me, like, well, what else am I going to do? I'm going to hang in there, and I'm going to try to be positive. But so, I could write a book on the stupid things that people said to me. But so I think just, love them and be there for them. I was going to say on, my 3 cancers, the first one I had my crazy neurotic Jewish parents by my side every minute, and that was awful. And then for the next 2, I had my husband, who is a doctor and total denier. He's like, Mr. Optimist, and you're fine, and you don't need that scan, and you don't need that, you're gonna be fine. I'm like, well, that's not so helpful either.
You have a balance.
Yeah, so so there's something in the middle that does work, but just be there for them. And, take them out for a beautiful walk or hike or whatever they can handle, a nice meal, and, just the present, I think, is the best thing you could do.
Thank you. Next, yeah.
Speaking of food, what do y'all eat? There's new things talking about a ketogenic diet. It's helpful for cancer patients because of the lower carbohydrate. Y'all exercising so much. What do y'all eat?
So the question is about what do you eat, and any comments on ketogenic diet?
I try to eat healthy. I don't follow a strict diet. I've talked about this with several oncologists about what they think is best for me, and they've kind of just laughed at me because they're like, "You're our healthiest patient." I don't think this is about what you're eating. I think it's a slightly bigger problem. So I definitely try to eat healthy. I feel good when I'm eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, definitely, but I'm not vegan, I'm not vegetarian, I haven't tried the keto diet, and I feel good about my choices, and I just try to eat healthy and live my life and not worry too much about that.
So I am a vegetarian, but it goes back to my DES exposure. And when I was 21, I found out that they were feeding chickens and cattle DES. And I'm like, I'm not going to eat more of the stuff that caused my cancer. Mm-hmm. So that was phase number one. I was a vegetarian for a long, long time. Fast forward to my Whipple, when you Google it, you'll see, I don't have a lot of digestive organs, so it's really hard for me to eat. I can't eat anything fried or fatty or bad oils. I can eat avocado and good oils. And I can only eat little meals at a time because then I feel horrible. So it's almost like I had bariatric surgery, but not. But in my way, the way that I eat. So again, I am a vegetarian and I eat nothing processed. I try to limit sugar and alcohol and eat healthy.
I know this story, so I'm going to ask you to tell the story about what they brought you to eat after 23 days after your...
So at Stanford's fancy schmancy hospital, I'm sorry, but if anyone is here, but you feel like you're in the Ritz Hotel for everything else. And they knew I was a vegetarian. I had not eaten a thing for 23 days. I had a tube in my neck for the TPN. The first thing they brought me was beef stroganoff. I'm not kidding. I looked at that and then probably threw up because I was throwing up all the time. Anyway, that was a mistake, I think, on their part. I didn't eat it.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, I work a lot with patients who are recovering from Whipples, for example. And a lot of times the surgeon will say, well, if you're going to eat, if you're going to exercise, your, whatever calories you're burning in the exercise is detrimental. I'm wondering for you guys, what strategies you used during that time period that helped you to maintain your exercise. Does that make sense?
After my Whipple?
Well, right, you're healing, you're starting to exercise again. What did you use to maintain caloric intake while you were starting to exercise? What worked for you?
So initially, I mostly ate smoothies and soups. I mean, that was initially what got me back on track. And then I reached a point where I couldn't look at a smoothie or a soup. So like I said, I can eat avocados and olive oils, so things that are high in fat, good fat content to maintain my caloric intake. And that's pretty much how I balance it.
Hold on, right here. Yeah, go.
So we both have foundations, and one of the question I have about the foundations is even though they're probably linked primarily to doing research and that kind of stuff, so is there a way to get your foundation in some way to help pay for community-based exercise interventions for patients, since that is probably one of the biggest roadblocks in getting patients to do exercise, if they have to pay for a lot of these interventions and they're not
So just to repeat the question, I bet people heard, but would your foundations be open to funding community-based physical activity programs for cancer survivors?
I think ours is just starting, so our focus is on research. But there are some organizations that are already doing what you mentioned, but I mean, I would be open to looking into something like that. We have just started, definitely, so I definitely hear your point for sure.
And Swim Across America is a 30-year-old organization where their focus is research around the country. I'm kind of an outlier pushing towards, I tried to form a partnership with an organization called Sunflower Wellness, so, which is a nonprofit that does do exercise programs with cancer patients. So I think there's a way. We're working on trying to figure out, there's got to be a way. Right now, our mission is not that, but I'm hoping that we can kind of merge the two.
Okay. Last question to Anna Campbell.
You are obviously, you're a runner and you're a swimmer, so you do a lot of cardiorespiratory aerobic fitness. I just wonder, there's research about resistance and flexibility helping to counteract some of the side effects. Have you always done it, or have you changed what you do as far as your fitness regime to incorporate different things?
So the question was about, these guys are obviously endurance athletes, cardiorespiratory fitness is a focus, but what do you do for resistance training or flexibility or other elements of fitness, and how do those things support your, your swimming and your running?
Yeah, I definitely do running as my primary form of exercise, but there's always the ancillary work on the side that supports the running. At various phases, I've done more lifting and less lifting based on just the time of year and training that I'm in. I definitely felt like yoga was especially helpful for me after my abdominal surgery, and I'm still working on getting some of my full range of motion and function back, and just abdominal strength. So yes, definitely I think that strength training is important, and I'm trying to continue to add more of that to my training because I think it is very beneficial, even though I like running better.
And I too, I swim every single day. I mean, I rarely miss a day. I found the YWCA here, it was great this morning, but I do work with a personal trainer twice a week, and I do yoga, and I hike a fair amount. So I do other things, but if nothing else on any given day, I will have swum.
I know this because actually at the, Susan was our patient advocate at the roundtable that we had in San Francisco, and she looked at the schedule and said, when am I supposed to swim? So, and she actually missed part of the meeting because she was like, no, I insist that I have to go swim. So I'm gonna let these guys have the last word. Is there anything that we haven't asked you that you wish this community of scientists and community practitioners and physicians and exercise trainers and sports nutritionists likely, and anything else I didn't mention, that you would want this audience to know or to do for patients?
I guess that's a big question, but I guess what I would think of something to end on is just the way that I view cancer survivorship and exercise is that the era that we're moving into with cancer medicine changing so quickly is that we're going to have a lot of cancer survivors. People are going to live a long time with their cancer. I think that's where things are going. I think we'll get more treatments, but there's going to be a lot of cancer survivors out there who need to figure out how to live their lives with cancer or after cancer, and I think that finding a way to get back to, there won't be maybe a normal life after cancer, but a life where you still have a relationship with your body and you're still investing in it, and just really being supportive and encouraging for people to find how that fits into their life and their survivorship plan. I think it's very important, and I think that's one of the keys to long-term quality of life and also survival. So
thank you.
That's that.
I totally agree, and I think that I really hope that the physicians in the room pull in personal trainers and nutritionists and a team of people to help them. On a side note, my daughter, who is just finished her second year of medical school at Emory, she came home, and she was home for the week, and we were talking about this, and she's like, Mom, I know nutrition's important, but I have no more room in my brain to fit in any more information than I'm already learning in medical school. So we need nutritionists to help the doctors. And I think, she said, I get so upset when people say doctors don't know enough about nutrition. But nutritionists know about nutrition. And so bring in the nutritionists, bring in the exercise physiologists, bring in the personal trainers. Have a team with you to work with your patients so that we all can be on the same page. And that, what I tell people as a wellness coach is whatever's good, that you have to get in the best shape you can be in before something bad happens to you. And I say something bad will happen to you. We're all human. And not that everyone's going to get 3 cancers, but you might get a heart attack or a stroke or you break a leg or something. So get in the best possible shape you can be in. And then if you do get cancer, you're in the best possible shape, and then you know what it means to have good exercise habits and nutrition habits. So.
Please join me in thanking Gabe and Susan for spending some time with us this afternoon.